Hey guys, I'm here to answer some of your questions, so let's get to it. What's the point of the UFC rushing a Ferguson fight considering MMA fans have been waiting for a Khabib-Ferguson fight for half a decade now? Honestly, I just think that the UFC are going with the show must go on motto, and it appears Tony Ferguson has been really eager to compete as well. He accepted the fight with Justin Gaethje on April 18, accepted it on May 9. The fight has fallen through so many times, and while of course we want to see Khabib and Tony Ferguson, but with Ramadan starting today, Khabib is not going to want to fight until at least September, if not later, depending on how events go from here on out. So I don't think Tony Ferguson wants to wait around for too long. He's put in the training camp. He even made weight for April 18 when he didn't have to. So I think he's eager to get back in there and compete. And it is for an interim title. That helps, although he's won an interim title before. But it's a different payday when you're competing for an interim title. And I just think at this point, like he just wants to go in there and fight. From Al, do you think GSP versus Khabib will ever happen? And if it does, what advantages do each fighter have over the other? I do think it's a possibility, although the UFC didn't seem like they were on board with the fight. Khabib wants it, GSP wants it. GSP's theory was that when he beat Michael Bisping, he vacated the title. So the UFC are afraid that if he does beat Khabib, he'd do the same thing. So it makes sense for the UFC to not want to make that fight happen. But Khabib has said that he wants it, and so does George St-Pierre. Stylistically, you've got two of the arguably the best grapplers in UFC history. Different styles of grappling with Khabib's sambo. So it would definitely be a very interesting fight. George St-Pierre is a 170-pounder. He's not the biggest 170-pounder. Khabib is a pretty big 55er. So I don't know if they do a catch weight or how they go about it, but I think the striking advantage would go to George St-Pierre. I think he's the more precise and clean striker. He's got a great jab. It'll be interesting to see. Neither fighter's ever been on his back before for too long, at least. So it's definitely an interesting stylistic matchup, and one that I do see happening. Who are the top 5 UFC fighters to never win a championship belt, in your opinion? There are a lot of guys that I could include in this list, but I can't not include Alexander Gustafsson. Fought for the title twice, came razor close to dethroning both DC and John Jones. He had an incredible fight with the both of them. He's beaten most of the top guys at light heavyweight. So definitely one of the better fighters to never win a UFC title. Uriah Faber is another one. He's a staple in the bantamweight division, and really one of the reasons why the lower weight divisions became so popular from his early days in WEC and then moving on to the UFC. He's one of the most beloved and popular fighters. So Uriah is another guy that's fought the who's who. He's had multiple chances at a UFC title. He was the WEC featherweight champion, but never got the opportunity to win a UFC title, and I think he's definitely one of the best fighters to never win a title. Another fighter, I'd say Dan Henderson. He's won a title in pretty much every major organization except the UFC. He's had multiple chances. The most recent one being his last fight of his career against Michael Bisping. Came so close, hurt and damaged Bisping. The fact that an older Dan Henderson could do that power, that overhand right, that famous handle bomb, almost had that fairy tale ending to his career. He's fought everybody, and he's been involved in some of the greatest fights in UFC history. So Dan Henderson is definitely another one. Joseph Benavidez is another guy. He's cleared out the majority of the flyweight division throughout his whole career. He's got a great record. Just keeps falling short when it comes to the title. Twice against Demetrius Johnson. First one super close, and then his fight with Figueiredo, he was doing well. But he lost that fight as well. But he's definitely another guy who's been a solid staple in the flyweight division, and he's beaten pretty much everybody they've put in front of him, just fallen short in the title fights. Chad Mendes is another guy. He's fought everybody. He's a dangerous guy. Win or lose, Chad Mendes always gives a fight. Even in his losses to Volkanovski and Conor McGregor, he took them to the brink as well. It gave them really, really good fights. His second fight with Jose Aldo is one of my favorite fights of all time. Really brought it to Aldo. And so Chad's a guy who's had some very impressive finishes in the featherweight division, but just hasn't been able to get over that hump. Moving on to the last question. Yusuf, if Justin beats Tony and claims the interim belt, is it a guarantee that he fights Khabib next, or could Conor potentially be next in that scenario? You know what? Crazier things have happened, but I honestly think the winner of Justin and Tony gets Khabib. Timeline-wise, it just fits perfectly as well. If the UFC are able to hold events and Khabib can compete in September, October after Ramadan's over and after he gets a full training camp in, if gyms are open and everything, then I see him fighting the winner of Tony and Gaethje, unless for some reason one of them can't make it to the winner of that fight can't make it to that September date. Khabib has made it clear that he does not want to fight Conor McGregor. He doesn't think Conor McGregor deserves a rematch. Do I think he'll fight him again? I do. But I think the next fight would go to the winner of Tony and Gaethje, unless, like I said, for some reason one of them can't make the fight, then I do see Conor McGregor stepping in on short notice, depending on how short notice, but I do see him stepping in and taking that opportunity.